Hello, everybody. We are here today to talk a little bit about Britney Spears' money. And so I'm trying out a new thing today. So I have this here iPad I'm going to be writing on. I've already written on it. Like I said, this is a brand new thing. So, if you could just bear with me a little bit, I'm trying to make it easier for y'all to kind of understand what I'm talking about. But clearly, technology is not the thing I'm the best at in the world. So Exhibit A you have right there. So I really don't exactly know what I'm doing here as far as the technology goes, but I am a lawyer. I have passed the bar exam, and for some reason, they keep putting trusts and estates all over the bar exam. So I did study a whole lot about this particular topic like 1 year ago before. So I brushed up a little bit on that. We're going to talk a little bit about trusts, and then we're going to talk. Oh, thank you, Martini. Oh, thank you. Martini said I'm broke ASF, but you deserve it. I love you, Queen. I love you too. Thank y'all so much. Oh, the cat's probably not going to come in here because the door is closed. Can y'all hear me okay? I just want to make sure y'all can hear me. Of course, you're welcome, and welcome everybody who's here. So again, I'm doing my best with this technology. This is like a live thing. I really don't know, but we are going to be jumping right in after that long AF introduction. Okay, so let's just start off with what is a trust. A lot of people have asked this very simple question, and it's pretty easy to figure it out. Like you can just Google it, but a lot of times they do use words you don't really necessarily know what they mean. So let's just get right into it. So what is a trust? The definition, see, look, I'm already messing up here. If anybody knows of any educators or teachers that have like a good whiteboard program or app, just leave it in the comments because I am looking for one right now. This one's good, but I'm using Lynn new. So if you're a teacher, educator, and you have a good app for stuff like this, live teaching, please do. Free obviously would be best, but I'm willing to pay for it too. Okay. So what's the definition of a trust? Now, you'll find different definitions, but basically a trust is a contract between a few parties, a grantor, which is sometimes called a trustor or a settlor. Then you have the trustee, who is the person or entity involved and responsible for administering the trust on a day-to-day basis. And that person or entity does have a fiduciary duty. And then you have beneficiaries of the trust who are also part of the contract. Oh, thank you. It's Courtney, BITCH. I have to stop saying curse words because they keep being suppressing me. Ugh, suppress censorship. But I do really want, Google has a Jamboard. Yeah, I saw that. Michelle, do you like it? Thank you so much. It's Courtney, biatch. So basically a trust is a contract. And then you have certain things that every single trust, no matter what kind of trust it is, have to have, right? So a trust, I didn't write it here. I should type it in here, I guess. Let's see. It should also have a purpose. Okay, so trusts have certain requirements. Every single trust has to meet these requirements. It has to have property, sometimes called assets, sometimes called a corpus. That means the trust can't just be completely empty. There's some exceptions to this. I'm really doing a very high level. This is not supposed to be a law school class. This is a very high level understanding here. So please don't watch this if you're studying for your trust and estates final, because this ain't the video. Maybe I'll make one if y'all want that, but this ain't it. Okay, so property in a trust can be really anything. We'll get a little bit more into that in a moment. Also, you do need to have some type of grantor or settlor. That's the person who invents the trust. They create the trust. In Britney's case, that'll end up being Britney. But again, we're going to get right into that in just a second. I'm just getting in the basic requirements here. And then you need a purpose for the trust, whether it be to, protect, sometimes the purpose is you have to get a little bit, you have to finagle a little bit, but in layman's terms, a lot of times the purpose is to protect your assets or to keep, certain amount of your assets in a certain tax bracket, or to save up for your child's college fund or for anybody's college fund. Those are certain purposes. Okay, so let's get back into this. So there's two main trusts that you really care about for Britney's case, and that's People pronounce this word differently. I'm originally from, Louisiana. So this word looks like revocable to me. Sometimes you'll hear people say revocable. It depends on where you were trained and educated and stuff like that. I went to law school in Philly, and a lot of people said revocable, but I really think, like, spoiler alert, it don't really matter what you call it. So then you have these irrevocable trusts, or irrevocable. I'm going to say revocable because that just seems more correct to me. Oh, shoot. All right. So some of the reasons. Okay, you see I have these beautiful drawings here, gorgeous pictures. And the one on the left under revocable is supposed to look like a bucket. That is a bucket, so use your imagination. So why would you create a revocable trust? Well, it's kind of like a bucket, right? There's no lid on the bucket. You can see this right here. It's supposed to be an open, top. And I have an investment property drawn in here. But you can really put anything into a trust. Like in Britney's case, let's say she had some fancy, dress or something that she owned, and she wanted it to be in there because some special designer made it. Or, you could even put cash. Cash can go in there. What else can you put in a revocable trust? Literally anything. You can put, money. You can put properties, like actual investment properties. You can put certain, like bank accounts in there if you want. You can put the title to your home or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you can just put whatever in there, but you can kind of like get it back out in a way, right? This is not a law school class. This is not legal advice. I'm just kind of giving y'all what you need to know to get through this here. Okay. There are beneficiaries in, both of these trusts. And the reason why you would do a revocable trust a lot of times is because you want this privacy and it makes it easier to administer. But in law school, and when I was studying for the bar exam, what they said all the time was the reason for a revocable trust is to keep your assets out of probate court. And if you're following Britney's, y'all can't read the board. Sorry about that. If you're following Britney's case, then it is happening in the probate court. And so this didn't work very well, keeping it out of probate, because it is in the probate court. So if you're just following along here, the main purpose of these types of trusts, and I'm not saying the purpose, like the purpose that's required under the trust. I'm just saying, like, the layperson's like main reason you're going to be doing this is to keep your stuff away from Judge Penny and Reva Gates, because y'all already see what happens whenever they get their hands on it, right? Okay. So we're going to write it. Keep out of probate court. Okay. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the tip and the super chat. Okay. But sometimes, as y'all see here, the beneficiary of a trust is an irrevocable trust. Now, that probably is going to sound like I'm speaking another language, but bear with me because I will explain it and it'll be easy to understand when we get to Britney's case. Okay. So a big difference in revocable and irrevocable trust comes down to who's controlling that property in the trust. Now, in Britney's case, there's this huge trust called the SJB Trust that we are going to get into, right? But just know that the trustee of that, as far as we are aware right now, is possibly Jamie Lynn Spears, but we have a timeline we're going to get into. Another reason for an irrevocable trust is for asset protection. So after that trust is created and the property is put into the trust, then creditors in the future will not often be able to get their hands on it if you were to file bankruptcy or go into debt or something. Again, this is not legal advice. This is not, necessarily like me including all the different little exceptions and stuff. I just want to let y'all know, different types of reasons why you might choose these types of trusts. And then, of course, estate and tax mitigation. All right. So I have this example here and we might get to it, but I really want to get into Britney's stuff right now. So how does this relate to Britney? Okay. Let's just get right into that part. So in 2004, Britney establishes the SJB Revocable Trust. Okay. Now, the purpose of this, yes, Michelle, correct. She did resign in November. However, we haven't seen that officially on any minute orders, any court documents, or anything like that. So we don't really know, but you are right, and we will get into that. Oh, thank you so much, Nikki. Oh, you're so nice. With all Britney's successes, why is only $600 million in question? If I had money, I'd fight for her, but at least I can help you help her. Oh, that's so nice. And again, we'll get into this, some of these questions right at the end. I agree with you though, Nikki. Why is it that we're only talking about $600 million? Britney's probably worth billions of dollars. So we really need to be talking about that. So Britney establishes this trust in 2004. Now, in that trust, remember, you have to have settlors. Sometimes you'll have a trustee, the beneficiary. Britney herself was the sole settlor. She was the sole trustee, and she was the sole beneficiary. Okay, so again, what is a settlor? That's the creator of a trust. What's a trustee? That's the person who is responsible for administering the trust, meaning you kind of get to decide the day-to-day. What if it's money in there? How is it invested? If it's an investment property in there, how is it taken care of? You see what I'm saying? And the beneficiary is a person or an entity who will receive the property from the trust if the person who owns, if the settlor passes away or otherwise I think it's just if they die. Okay, so in Britney's case, the beneficiary, the trustee, and the settlor for this trust, SJB, were all Britney. So she made herself the settlor, she made herself the trustee, and she made herself the sole beneficiary. And then the property in that trust was supposed to be all of Britney's assets. That was supposed to be everything. It was supposed to be all of her money, all of her property, all of her businesses, all of her companies. Everything was supposed to be pretty much owned by this trust. And remember, it was one of these buckets. So if she really wanted to dip in there, she could get it, right? And also if she really wanted to dip in there, creditors could get it. However, from my understanding, she was the sole trustee, the sole settlor, and the sole beneficiary. The property was basically all her money. Okay, so y'all following? All right. So then we move on to February 2008. And as we know, that is when the conservatorship was established. February 1st through 4th, 2008 was when all of it was getting settled. And remember, as we just talked about, Britney has all her assets in this trust. And so that's where we get this right here. Vivian Lee Thoreen has gone on television many times and said, oh, Britney was basically broke. This is a paraphrase. Britney was basically broke, before we came in, and the estate had no money. And we, got it from 2.8 million to 60 million. Well, okay, that's cute, but that's because all her money was up here in this bucket. And so the estate, right? Like, that's why I wrote this down here. The estate had almost no money because it was all in this trust. And remember, what is the reason for a trust? For the most part, like, what's the most likely reason Britney established this trust? To keep her money out of probate court. Okay, y'all understand? Y'all see what I'm saying? So it worked, right? She establishes this trust to keep her money out of probate court. And then when they established this conservatorship, just as Vivian Lee Thoreen has said, there was no money in her estate because it was all in the SJB Trust, just how Britney had planned. Okay. So a lot of people, your grandma, your grandpa, whatever, they might ask you, if you're in the United States, right? How do I keep what happened to Britney Spears from happening to me? And the answer is you kind of can't, because what most lawyers would say is you make a trust and you keep the trust, the trust is to keep your assets out of probate court. Well, it didn't work for Britney, right? And we'll get into more why, right? But this is exactly, how I've been able to track it down. Okay. So just so that we are aware of what is actually going on in Britney's case, Britney had written her trust to say, okay, fine, listen, if anything ever does happen to me, then these are the people who I want to step into my place, right? And that's who's written in black writing right here. We have Stacy Smith, Brian Spears, who is Britney's brother, and then this guy named Ivan Taback. I spelled his name wrong here. I think it's Taback, but y'all get the point. Okay. So as you can see in the red writing, Stacy Smith seems to have declined to be the trustee of this trust once Britney got put into the conservatorship. Now, once Britney was in the conservatorship, she lost her legal ability to be the trustee, settlor and beneficiary, or not beneficiary, but she lost her ability to be the trustee of this trust. So she had already planned for that right here. and she had established successors, people to come into her place if she was deemed incompetent or something. Stacy Smith, she said, no, I want nothing to do with that. Brian, he did. He accepted the position in 2008, and Ivan also accepted. But as you can see in the red writing here, Brian resigned about around 2000. I think it was March 2010. He formally resigned. And then Ivan actually resigned a few years ago. So he had served as trustee for many years. And right around the time that Britney is being forced to go on tour, according to her June 23rd testimony, we have this guy, Ivan, stepping down. Then you have Lynn Spears, who was never mentioned by Britney as someone she wanted to be a successor trustee. Lynn is put in place sometime around 2017 or 2018. Now, as I think it was Michelle said earlier, Lynn resigned from this position in 2020. But we don't have any necessarily like any court documents that say that. Perhaps they exist. I need to look a little harder. But again, this is just supposed to be a very cursory, introductory, nuts and bolts of what's really going on here. Okay. So whenever Lynn resigned in November, just last year, we had Samingham, who was Britney's court-appointed counsel, stepping in as guardian ad litem, which is similar to a trustee, but not exactly the same. Okay. So all this is going to end up coming back full circle and coming together. If you're lost right now, that makes sense. We're going to pull it all together, and I think you're going to understand it soon. People are asking, who is Ivan? That's a great question, and I really don't know. He's just some guy who's a lawyer who had been involved with this trust since 2004, to my knowledge. So maybe he helped Britney set it up, but we really have no 100% way of knowing that, or I don't as of this time. Maybe some of y'all have information on Ivan, but I really don't exactly know. But what I will say is he worked with the conservatorship team for years and years and years and allowed money from this trust to be co-invested and sort of invested as a unified whole with other money from the conservatorship. And you'll hear people and see people online saying, this conservatorship was never supposed to be able to manage Britney's trust money. And that is true. It was not. But it's kind of like one of those well, technically, because it's the same exact investment managers and investment advisors who are managing the trust money and the conservatorship investments. And so we'll get into that too soon. Okay. So we're still in our timeline in February 2008. This is the month that the conservatorship was established. Okay. So remember, the estate, Britney's estate, had really very little money. $2.8 million is not very little money, but compared to the money that was in the trust, that was a lot. That was a little tiny bit of money. And that's why Vivian always says, oh, she didn't have any money and we got her estate to have more money. Okay, yeah, but it was in the trust that she set up. So it's kind of misleading that Vivian does that. I wouldn't say that because I think it's a lie. But again, that's just my opinion. I really, whatever. An argument can be made well, technically. Okay, so Ivan and Brian, who are co-trustees, they ask the court, or basically tell the court, they don't even ask for permission. They tell the court, okay, hey, look, we are not conservators. We are trustees of this trust. And this trust is really not supposed to be in probate court, but we're going to let Jamie and Andrew as co-conservators, right? So this might be worth making a little note here. Okay, so let's just move over here for a second. Okay. So we have the conservatorship here. Let's make it like this. Okay, and then we have the trust. Now, let's say the conservatorship of the estate, okay, on one side. Now, who are the players here? Conservatorship of the estate would be Jamie and Andrew. So they're not supposed to have anything to do with this trust. It's supposed to be different people, okay? But what ends up happening? You have the co-trustees as of 2008 were Brian, that's Britney's brother, and Ivan, okay? So these are the trustees. These are the conservators, and these are the trustees, and they are supposed to really be separate, okay? But what ends up happening is, let's get a different color here. These two tell the court that they need to take some money. They need to borrow some money from the SJB Trust in 2000. I think it was 2008. It might have been 2010. So they need to borrow money, and they call it an advancement, okay? So see how these are like different people? Like this is all these people working together. Explanation is too slow and redundant. Yeah, Starlet, this is for people who don't know anything about this. So like I said, this ain't really for your law school class. All right. So, okay. So they borrow money. We have Andrew and Jamie on part of the conservatorship, basically borrowing money. And that still goes back into Vivian's, there was no money in the conservatorship. Yeah, there was no money because it was in the trust. Well, they went ahead and borrowed around $9 million from Britney's businesses, the Revocable Trust, and from the Love Shack Trust. And they called that $9 million advances. Now, the interesting thing is they didn't actually even ask the court for permission to do that. They just told the court, oh yeah, that's in Britney's best interest. So they basically borrowed $9 million. Again, this trust is supposed to be kept out of probate court, but somehow they're able to take, $3 or so million, almost $4 million out of there just, right off the bat. So then you have, anyway. So then you have the very next month, right? Let's make it a little bigger here. Oops, sorry. Oh, shit. Shoot. No. Okay. So then you have the very next month, March. I got to get a better whiteboard, y'all. Sorry about it. I'm doing my best. March 2008. It's a month after the conservatorship. And we have Brian and Ivan. Remember, they are trustees. Permanently transfer Britney Touring Inc. to the conservatorship. Again, they do not ask permission from the court. And again, they say it's in the best interest of the trust. I don't know how it could be in the best interest of the trust to lose money or lose a whole entire income stream. Best interest of the conservatorship estate and in the best interest of Britney for Jamie and Andrew as co-conservators to own and control Britney Touring Inc. No one objected to this. Okay. So then from the years 2008 to 2010, we have a ton of companies opening and a ton of companies that were run by the SJB Trust closing, okay? So as you can see in this type font here, it seems like almost all the companies that were originally supposed to be owned and kind of operated and stuff by that SJB Trust have been closed or are otherwise being controlled. Okay, hold on. How about this? I'm tired of reading your comments, so they're hidden now. Okay, if y'all don't like what I'm doing here, you can go watch something else because I'm literally not the one. Like I'm honestly like not trying to be like that type of person, but I'm not here for like, I'm not even gonna say it. If you don't like what I'm doing, leave. And if you have too much to say during my live streams, you're getting hidden. All right. So it seems like almost all the companies that were originally supposed to be owned by SJB have been closed, okay, or are otherwise being controlled by the conservatorship estate. So let's just for 1 second, just recap. Okay. So without the board and without all that, we had some companies. Every single one of them, let's say there's 20. When they made profits, it went into the SJB Trust, okay? But the conservatorship team said, hold on. How are we going to get our hands on that? That doesn't work for us, right? So they closed those companies down and then opened their own companies. And when they opened those companies, those profits would then go into the conservatorship instead of into the trust. Does that make sense, y'all? So Britney, all the way back in 2004, she said, hold on. I want to protect my money in this trust. So I want all my businesses to run the profits into that trust. Then whatever's going on in that trust, we're going to have advisors and finance people, and they're going to invest my money and grow it and do whatever needs to happen there, right? But everything needs to be in the trust. But Team Con was like, no, we're not doing that because we're not going to be able to pull the money out to get paid. So let's close these companies down, open new companies, have those profits go into the conservatorship estate, and then we can get paid. Okay. Does that make sense? Y'all understand? Okay. All right. So we're back to this. Okay. Also importantly, these two people are named over here, Robin Krasny and Mark Lewis. Originally, they were at a company called UBS at the beginning of the conservatorship. That's these people, okay? Now, they moved from UBS to a company called Morgan Stanley, and that is where they were, I believe, today. Maybe they went over to JP Morgan, like somebody's over there at JP Morgan. I'm not really sure how this factors in, but they moved from UBS to Morgan Stanley. The reason that is important is when these people moved jobs to a different bank, the conservators of the estate, or Ivan or whoever it was, the trustees, they asked to be able to move. Oh, thank you so much, Artem. Oh, thank you. Hi from Sweden. Hi. So when Robin and Mark moved from UBS to Morgan Stanley, the conservators petition. Thank you, Nasib. The conservators for the super chat. The conservators said, no, we need to move Britney's Money in there too, because we have to keep staying on with these two, Robin and Mark. Now, to what extent that's important, I'm really not even actually sure, but those two people are listed in court documents as the two investment advisors or the investment managers. Okay. So then in 2017, 2018, this is all what the original lawyer warned her about, that her asset estate would be drained, who offered his services at no charge and was later disbarred. Yep, John Erdley. Yeah, and he was right. So in 2017, 2018 is around the time it seems like Britney kind of started to do this work strike thing. Like it seemed like she was kind of over it. It started to be around this time. So we have Ivan Tabak resigning after being a trustee of the SJB Trust since 2008. So like 10 years, goes by, and he's like, oh, now I'm going to resign, which doesn't really add up because the same people are still advising are still managing the money, the same institutions. Like it doesn't seem like a lot has changed, but Ivan resigns. And there is an August 2017 petition for substituted judgment. Now, why is that important? The reason it's important is, if you remember from the beginning, let's just do this. Let's just go back up here. When we were defining those different types of relationships here, there were certain things that certain people could do and certain people could not do. The settlor of a trust, for example, is really the only person who's supposed to be able to make huge changes to a trust. And in this case, that was Britney. So a huge change to a trust is considered to be like, who is the trustee or who are the investment managers and stuff like that, right? So Jamie and Andrew had a little bit of a problem. And the problem was Britney doesn't have the legal capacity to change the trustee. Britney doesn't have the legal capacity to make decisions on this trust. And so finally, we have Jamie and Andrew Wallet as co-conservators asking the court for permission. Yeah, you know what? We want to step into the shoes of Britney. Basically, we want to impersonate her. We want to pretend like we're Britney and we're making a decision that she would make if she was in, the right state of mind, which again, all of this is a huge farce. Britney Spears has no grave disability where she's not able to handle her own money. This is all just a huge money grab on the part of the conservators. And that's, what we're seeing here. But the court, of course, goes ahead and allows Jamie and Andrew to do it because there's no objection, right? Interestingly, this same month is whenever the attorneys who would later go on to represent Jamie Lynn Spears as the trustee, they started to be mentioned here. So it's speculated that Jamie Lynn kind of became trustee in 2017. And, whenever Ivan Tabak resigned, like right before he resigned or whatever. But it's kind of a blurry timeline. We don't exactly know, but that's why I have 2017-18 up there. Okay. Interestingly, the trust required the changes they made to Britney's trust with this substituted judgment thing required 2 doctors to give their opinion on someone's legal disability before they can remove someone as the trustee. Okay. So it just, and that's a total side note, but it just kind of does show you that they know how easy it is to get a doctor to just say whatever, right? So they need 2, they're requiring 2 doctors to change the stuff that they put in place. But there was only 1 doctor required to put Britney in this conservatorship. And to be quite honest, even that doctor didn't even give a capacity declaration. He just gave like some weird little evaluation that doesn't even really legally count. Thank you so much, Chris. Trolls in the comments, Team Con. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely someone who doesn't want me to be talking about this money. So also, I mean, I'm not, I've already told y'all many times, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to pretend like I am. Like, I'm just trying to help y'all understand to the extent I do, because it's really empowering whenever you understand, even on a basic level. Thank you so much, Jill. Thank you, Chris. No, I appreciate it, Mira. I'm looking for a better whiteboard app, so I will be doing that. This is just my first, try. So thank you for the feedback. It's very appreciated. Okay. So then we have what we end up learning, right, through this 2020 document is that there was an amendment, a few amendments to the trust that Jamie and Andrew put into place through the use of stepping into Britney's shoes, which they were allowed to do by the court. First of all, they established a new trust. So it was not, so the, thank you, Sloan, for your message. So they got a new trust, so it's not just the SJB one anymore, right? And they also created this thing called a pour over will, which we really don't need to get into right now. But now, basically, Jamie and Andrew amended the distribution of the assets so that it used to be, how Britney wanted it to be was when she passed away, she wanted her money to go into a certain, particular way. But they amended it to make it to Jamie and Andrew as co-conservators amended it, which they shouldn't really have been able to do, in my opinion. Instead of going the way that Britney wanted it, they were going to distribute the assets when Britney passed away, all her assets, including the SJB Trust, which who knows how much money's even left in there anymore. Could be a lot, could not be any. I don't really know. Including her life insurance payouts and any other assets that she had, they were going to be transferred into this BJS Kids and Family. Thank you so much, Naseeb. Thank you for your effort. Understand a lot more. Love you. Oh, you're so nice. Thank you. Okay. Last comment is frustration of what people who claim to be looking out for Britney and really looking out for themselves. Exactly. Okay. So basically they have this other thing, this BJS Kids and Family Trust. I don't know who started that, who's the trustee, what's the deal with that. It was just like a little reference to it that we were able to see in this 2020 filing. But this is not, right, for the record, this is not what Britney wanted to be done with her money. From what I understand, she wanted her money just go to her kids. And now who's the Kids and Family Trust? Who's the beneficiaries of that trust? We don't really know, but it's probably not just her kids if it's called the Kids and Family Trust. A lot of people think that this trust has to do with Jamie Lynn's kids because she was made the trustee and then there was some other stuff going on. So now let's get to the 2020 and then we're almost done here, okay? So in 2020, we have Jamie Lynn making a motion to move all of those SJB assets. Now remember, what's in the SJB bucket? All kind of stuff, right? All of her assets into these things called blocked accounts. Now, interestingly, Britney said, I was thinking that they were trying to kill me. And it is interesting that they're kind of like redoing all of her trusts, redoing her will, redoing the distribution of what happens when she dies and all that. And at the same time, Britney's saying they were trying to kill me. Okay, so I'm not making any speculations here, but I just thought it was interesting. Okay. Okay, so then you have August 2020, so about 1 year ago, a little over a year ago, Jamie petitioning to move all of that trust money from the SJB into Fidelity. But she wanted Stonebridge Investment Counsel to be the investment advisor. And as part of the deal here, Stonebridge was going to be able to negotiate their own fees with Fidelity, okay? And that could have ended up being like $5 million a year or something based on how much like people thought the trust was worth, okay? So again, if y'all don't know what's going on here, Stonebridge was an investment advising firm that was started by Britney Spears' former business manager, Louise Mary Taylor. It was started in around 2002 with Lou Taylor and this other guy named Mitch Martin. Now, Lou Taylor then went on from at least 2007 to 2020 to be Britney's business manager. And a lot of Britney's money has been put into Stonebridge already. So there's huge conflicts of interest already, right? And then you have thank you so much, Benjamin Fowler. Then you have 2020 rolling around and Jamie Lynn trying to put this money into Fidelity with Stonebridge being able to negotiate their own fees. And, you know, Lou Taylor will say that she's not affiliated. She will say in her cease and desists that she sends out that she's not affiliated with Stonebridge. But Stonebridge has like, 384 employees. It's like this small, Nashville investment advising firm. And it's just kind of strange that, Lou is allegedly no longer affiliated with them. But, if you were taking her word for it, then, I guess whatever. I don't know. Okay. So then we all start making videos about it and we're like, this is weird. This is a conflict. This is Lou Taylor's old firm. Then allegedly like Lou and Jamie and them are going to the courts and saying, oh no, they're not affiliated. And Samingham might even know about it. Like all this stuff is popping off. If you want to know like everything that actually went on during that time, just go back and watch my Instagram lives from that time because I do have them. And you can kind of see what was all popping off around August 2020. But by the time November 2020 rolls around, when it's time for Jamie Lynn to actually go to court on this issue, she withdrew the petition and said she no longer wanted to move Britney's money into the care of Stonebridge. She then allegedly resigned, as Michelle said earlier, but that hasn't been officially confirmed. And then again, there was this whole $600 million in and out of Stonebridge thing that we're not going to really get into. If you know, you know. If you don't, you should go back and watch those videos. They're also on YouTube if you can't access Instagram. So how does this really work on the ground, right, with Britney's money? And this is like a little bit of a addition, subtraction here, okay? First of all, very importantly, Britney's royalties and like copyright, like intellectual property payments and income are not reported to the court for the conservatorship, okay? So we have no idea, and I would venture, I have no way to know this, but I would venture to wager that most of Britney Spears's money, her income, most of it comes from intellectual property. That is Britney the brand. That would be streaming music, CDs, if that's a thing people still buy, vinyls, merch, anything with Britney's name on it, right? That's making general perfume. I mean, we had Brian Spears saying that was worth billions of dollars last year. He said that. So none of that crap is reported to the conservative. None of that is reported to the court. Okay. So if you have questions about that, you should direct them to Lou M. Taylor at TriStar Sports and Entertainment, because apparently it was just too hard for her to calculate the royalties, even though that's something she mentions as being one of her specialties on her website. Okay. So then, okay, so we're not even talking about royalties. So what exactly income is coming into the conservatorship is anybody's guess. So we move down to number 2. They transfer the known profits, right? So the first profit, number 1, we don't know. It's just, we'll just say unknown. We have no idea. Unknown. Okay, so the known profits, those go into the conservatorship to eventually end up paying them. And this is how, okay? You start with the gross profit from those businesses. There's like 20 businesses or whatever. They each are in charge of doing a thing, tours or, paying domestic staff, stuff like that. We have all of that in the gross profit section. I made that green so that, sorry if you are color blind, the gross profit is in the color green. And then you have business entities where that gross profit goes. So let's say it's touring company and they got paid for the tour. It goes into the touring company's bank account. But then they, out of that bank account, have to pay their business expenses and their operating costs, right? But this leaves a lot of outstanding questions, like who decides that? Who's it reported to? How has it been monitored, right? To make sure that they're not literally stealing money, right? Like from what I can tell, I'm not saying they are stealing money. I'm not even suggesting that they are. What I'm saying is if anybody was stealing money, this would be a very, very good place to do it, because you just call something a business expense and then now it's a business expense. Who's going to check you? Who's going to look? You know what I mean? Samingham. Okay. Yeah. With all his accounting specialties, you know what I mean? So what you have left after you do this calculation is called net income, right? So the net income is then what you have left. After the net income is there, then you have to pay not the business expenses, which is what was up here, but the conservatorship expenses. And y'all know that those are not cheap. It's millions and millions and millions of dollars. So after that, and we have a note here, these are disputed. Okay, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Okay. So after you subtract the conservatorship expenses, which is Vivian Lethal Rain's millions of dollars, Holland and Knight's, oh, thank you, Christina. Thanks, learning a lot. I have trust for my nephews for their inheritance because they're minors. Good. I always thought that what you're describing is called a bond, money that you can't touch for a certain period of time. Okay. I'm going to write bond down here because I do want to answer that question. Because it's a great question, Christina, and I will explain that in just a second, but I want to finish this thought too. Thank you so much too for the tip. Okay. Okay. So what we're looking at here, these conservatorship expenses, those are actually reported each year in an annual accounting report, right? And in those annual accounting reports, that's how we really have all this information. That's how we know this stuff. Who prepared those annual accounting reports, you might ask? Well, that was Lou Taylor at TriStar Sports and Entertainment, who also is or was affiliated with Stonebridge, which is the company that Jamie Lynn tried to allow to manage all of Britney's SJB money. So you see how this is kind of like folding back in on itself, kind of like, okay. Another thing about these, these expenses right here is that they're disputed. On these annual accountings, on the 12th account current, which is for the year 2019, okay? So right now we're in 2021, just 2 years ago. The 12th account current has a lot of disputed charges. And those disputed charges are Lou Taylor suing a fan for defamation against herself with Britney's Money, about $300,000. We have other disputed charges on the 2020 accounting. I think it's the 2020 accounting. It's like a $500,000 in media matters. We have like $3 million or something like that in attorney's fees that are going to be disputed, right? So there's a lot of stuff here that basically, as you can see, like this stuff right here, Matt Rosengart is saying, no, we're not paying this. And toward the end, Ingham was saying we're not paying this. But for those 13 years before he started waking up and realizing he had to do his job, he did not object to these. He just said, yeah, that looks good. So anything that happened in this area for the last 13 years, who knows? And that's what is the problem. And that's going to be the problem with finding all of this money, because we don't know if the money was treated as a business expense at some point, right? Like maybe Lou Taylor suing a fan was a business expense, right? Like it's all just how they creatively craft what these things are, right? Like what category do they go into? So basically, I could literally talk about this for probably 4 or 5 hours and still probably not have enough time. But basically, this is like the very, very fast and dirty, like this is what's going on here. This is the calculation of how they figure out what's going on with the money. And so if nobody's ever really dug in there, I mean, some of this money might not ever be seen again. If something was, oh yeah, like industry standard is to charge 14% of your tour revenue. This is a total hypothetical. I'm not saying this happened. But if it's supposed to be, you know, all this money, you know, the person, you know, for example, a manager could say, oh, it's industry standard to have 14% of the tour revenue come to the manager, which could have been a lie. We don't know. And then that could have been just nobody objected. It went to that person. And then later we find out industry standard is only 7% or whatever, right? Again, that's just like a hypo, but that's what we have going on here. It is all of these different ways that the same exact, you know, 4 to 6 people have been, the same exact 4 to 6 people have been in control of this money, these trusts, advisors, managers for 13 years, 14 years. So they know what's going on with this money, but for us to ever find out might be impossible. And I really don't know how that's really going to work. Okay. So I do want to talk about one more thing, and that is the bond. Christina asked about it. And so what she said specifically, where you at, was what you're describing was called a bond. So you can't touch the money for a certain period of time. Okay. So it's interesting because one of the, Christina, one of the amendments that they made in the 2018 amendments, like when they added like Jamie Lynn and all that stuff, was that in lieu of a bond, they could put the money into so-called blocked accounts. Okay. And what's like, normally that would be like a cool thing, like fine, like no one cares. But the issue with these blocked accounts is it allows an important exception. Okay. And so what a blocked account is an account where nobody can touch the money. So either you have a bond. Here, let me just erase this. Sorry. Let's go back. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of a bond? Okay. And as we've discussed before, the purpose of a bond is it insures a certain amount of a conservatee's assets, right? So in Britney's case, there's a $47 million bond, okay? So the bond amount represents how much of the assets that are insured. So probably it was implemented whenever Britney's estate and the conservatorship was worth about $47 million, okay? And basically what happens is, let's say, you know, you have your little conservator over here and they spend all your money, okay? There's the money. And now your money's gone, and now what are you supposed to do, right? Well, that's the purpose of these bonds. It is to make it to where if this person loses all the money, then we have the bond company on the hook for the money. Okay. So I don't know who the bond company is in Britney's, but they have been putting this certain bond company like on the court documents in Britney's case. So this is like something that's starting to heat up in the conservatorship. So that's the purpose of a bond. Okay. So when they made this amendment in 2018, they said, okay, instead of this, let's not do this. Instead, we're going to satisfy this purpose of insurance in another way. And that other way is going to be these blocked accounts. Okay, so what is a blocked account, you might be asking? Okay, so a blocked account, so we're doing, here, let's do it over here. A bond versus a blocked account. The blocked account is basically a bank account that some certain people manage for you, and nobody can get into it, not even the trustee, which would be Jamie Lynn. Okay, so Jamie Lynn was going to take the money from SJB, all of the assets, and she was going to put it into these blocked accounts, BA, blocked accounts. Okay, right? And that seems fine, right? But how was the money gonna, this is a dollar, that's the dollar. How is this dollar gonna actually get into that blocked account? Well, it was gonna make a pit stop, okay? So it was gonna go from SJB to a financial advisor. And then from the financial advisor, it was gonna go into this blocked account. But who is the, or sorry, investment advisor. Who was the investment advisor? Stonebridge. And what could Stonebridge do? Negotiate their own fees without including Jamie Lynn, and especially without including Britney, without including Jamie, without including Andrew. So it's just going to be Lou Taylor negotiate, or sorry, I should not say Lou Taylor because we really don't know if she really is still affiliated. That's just my hunch. So what you would have is Stonebridge negotiating their own fees with Fidelity through using, and all of this money from Britney's Trust, put it into, like, it's just like this weird middleman. Like, if you're sitting here saying, what's the purpose of this person? I'm also wondering, and listen, there might be other lawyers out there who might have a good reason as to why Stonebridge needed to be the one to manage this, but it just kind of looks like they were just trying to get a pit stop in there for fees to me. So that's the difference, Christina, between a bond and a blocked account. I don't know if I answered your question necessarily. I hope that I did. And y'all, I know this has been a little bit of a scatterbrain type of thing here. I promise I'll, eventually I'll be getting better at this. This is my first time with the board. I know a lot of times when I'm talking about this stuff, a lot of y'all would prefer some type of visual aid. I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but like whatever, it's helpful for now. And if you're an educator and you have a good app, send it to me. Okay. So yeah, nothing new talking about trust. So this is basically like, if the main takeaway from the video that I really think that like y'all should need to know is two things. Number one, the reason Britney's didn't have any money when she was going broke in the beginning, blah, blah, is because all her assets were very responsibly placed out of the reach of the probate court in a trust. So that's why she was broke. It wasn't because she was actually broke. She wasn't broke. I mean, I shouldn't even say, oh, she was broke. That's why she was broke. Because $2 million ain't broke. But like compared to the money that she had earned, she put a lot of it into this trust. So of course, she didn't have a lot of assets just like in her bank account whenever she was put into the conservatorship. They basically strategically over the course of, literally 10 years, wrangled the money from the SJB Trust little by little, chip by chip, piece by piece into their power, into their control and ownership. And the other big takeaway that I want y'all to take from here is this little, I don't know, like arithmetic or whatever you want to call it, where all the gross profit, right, from Britney's businesses, they go back into the business entities to pay those employees of those businesses. So if Jamie is the president of one of them, he may be getting paid as the president. If Lou Taylor is the agent for one of them, her, like a business expense could be to pay her from that business, right? So Lou Taylor and Jamie could be getting hundreds, millions, who knows how much money from these other businesses. And that could all be coming out from right here, right? They're just all, before they ever even hit the accounting for the conservatorship. And again, since Lou Taylor was involved in both the conservatorship and the trust, then we don't really know who had oversight over her and who was really looking down in the nuts and bolts of these transactions and these payments and these fees. Okay. And, then from the net income, you have to pay then from the conservatorship, you have to pay the lawyers, the fees, you have to pay Jamie's stupid salary of $16,000 or whatever, right? So there's a lot of money being spent here. And a lot of it probably has never, ever been appropriately accounted for. That is just my suspicion. And my, it's not even an allegation. It's just like what I think is probably going on. Yeah, so that's pretty much like all I really had to say about this as far as right now. I mean, if y'all want a more like in-depth, like actual edited like series or whatever, maybe me and Jake can get together and do something more like that. But I have been I have been asked like so many times the last 3 or 4 days, like, what's the SJB Trust? What's going on? What's going on with Lou Taylor? Why is Stonebridge in here? What does this trust have to actually do with the conservatorship? Thank you so much, Ramona. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Number 1, doggy, cute. So a lot of people have been asking me that lately. And so I just wanted to pop on. Hopefully this like helped to explain a little bit of some of this stuff. It actually is very difficult to explain this like live, like writing. And thank you so much, Lynn. Where does the royalty money go? Who isn't that the billions of dollar question? Don't I wish I knew? And I don't. Like, I don't know where that is. 100 billion. What is there a source for that? How does she only have 600 million then? I don't know if Britney only has 600 million. I think she probably has more. And if she doesn't, it's because it's been laundered or stolen or inappropriately spent. I mean, I strongly believe that Britney's money has been spent inappropriately. There are 2 Stonebridge companies. The 600 million was supposed to go into the second one. There's a lot of Stonebridge companies, I think, Mary. It's known fact that the sales were 100 billion, but she would have only got around 5%. Okay, thank you. So I'd see that helps. Okay, well, yeah, why don't y'all like leave? This would probably be the most helpful. If y'all specifically have questions, what would be helpful is if you just ask them like in the comments section, like specific questions about this issue, and then I can like maybe make like more streamlined videos about those specific topics. They go by multiple names. Exactly. So yeah, so hopefully I get like a little bit more efficient at this and better at it. I'm having fun just kind of like learning how to do it, learning the law, like refreshing on stuff that I knew. So thank you guys for bearing with me. And yeah, it's just kind of like a little bit. Oh, rumor. Oh, okay. Rumor in the chat is that the hearing will be broadcast. Have you heard confirmation about that? Chris, I have not heard confirmation about that. And I haven't actually even seen that rumor, but I think that that is what's going to happen because if they don't do it, if they don't broadcast it, then it seems like Christopher Melcher is going to bring them to the appeals court for a constitutional violation on the public's rights. So I think what they'll probably do, especially since the Delta variant seems to be getting a little bit more aggressive in California based on news reports, is I think that they probably will just re-implement that. Oh, thank you so much, Jamie Clark. I think that they probably will just end up re-implementing that remote audio access program. Like that's my opinion, but I really don't know. It's not like a legal opinion. It's just like a guess. Thank you again, Jamie Clark. Thanks for being you. Oh, would love to know what Andrew Wallet's position is now. Me too. They're going to do the broadcast. So they don't want that. They're going to do the broadcast. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. Does he have time? Yeah, no, I mean, I'm assuming Chris Melcher was prepared to file his appeal probably like the day that it was denied. I mean, I'm assuming he was prepared for the motion or for his request to be denied. And then whenever it was denied, he was probably ready, like sitting on go. He probably at least already had his arguments lined up, what he was going to say. And I imagine that I should reach out to him and see if he actually filed the appeal, or I'll reach out to someone. Okay. So yeah, anyway, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so y'all leave the questions that you have in particular, like the specific questions you have about the trust and about her money in the comment section below. And if I get enough questions, I'll just make a new video. Thank you so much, Nikki. When will the courts be held accountable for their dirty? That's a great question. I don't think the courts are going to be held accountable until after Britney's free. But again, this is just me guessing. I really don't know. Thank you again for the tip. Oh, okay. Chris Melcher uploaded a video last night. Oracle says they have to watch it. Okay, yeah, maybe I need to do that. If I as Cracker Sleeves, no. Oh, Jadeite Lady, welcome. Hey, great content. Thanks for breaking this down. Of course. Thank you so much for the tip. Please ask him. Thanks. Excellent information. I just watched his vid. Okay. Ramona, was his video about this issue? Was it about the remote audio access? Ramona? What did Team Con say to me? Well, they wanted me, for people here for that, I still haven't made that video, but I'll give you a little sneak peek, a little secret here for coming. But they said to me, what did they say to me? What they said to me was that they would like for me to stop talking about them. And this was a particular party of Team Con. And whenever I said, no, it's a free country, I'm not gonna talk about who I want. Then the person was like, well, can you at least stop saying, well, okay, so just so y'all know, like none of these conversations happened between me and the person directly. It was between representative from my law firm, my job. And so it was relayed to me that the person would like it if I stopped talking about them. And then I said, well, that's not going to happen. And then the person then started making other demands that I, through my employer, that I stopped talking about other certain things. And I said no again. And then other things happened. But that's pretty much what they wanted me to stop. They wanted me to stop talking about them is what happened. Thank you, Benjamin. Little hippos. That's so cute. So they say, no, the new video was not. It was more about, was it likely that Britney will be free on the 29th? Maybe he'll just jump on a live with me right now. I don't know. What does he do? I don't know. He probably works. Probably has a real job. Chris Melcher, are you here? Let's go on a live. Yeah. So basically that's the most, that's the most I've said about this ever, publicly. I am scared to say more publicly, but I will be saying more publicly. Frankly, I was getting ready to do this huge expose, and then Britney spoke, and I kind of didn't want to really take attention away from that. And I also was scared, frankly, of what I'm allowed to say, what I'm not allowed to say. And it's kind of I'm starting to get to the point where it's I'm allowed to say anything that I want because it happened to me. But I think I'm going to actually need Jake's help in telling the story. So I think we'll be probably publishing a video about, or a series even, about what happened. And I'm ready. I'm ready to just tell y'all right now, right here on the live, what happened. But we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I have to talk to a couple people. Just other people's lives are in the balance here that aren't just mine. But yeah, so I blink your eyes 3 times if nah, just kidding. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Would you not be allowed to say what is obviously true? Well, I mean, Nikki, good question. Why would I not be allowed to say what is obviously true? Well, there are certain types of fiduciary relationships that this particular person perhaps tried to exploit and they perhaps tried to make a situation exist where I wouldn't be allowed to say certain things. And so I had to really dig deep into the technicalities of what I'm allowed to say whenever I have a certain fiduciary relationship and whether or not I do and stuff like that. If you're a lawyer, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then you may have to wait a little bit longer just for me to understand what the repercussions are. I just basically am being a little bit, I don't know, paranoid or something. Who tried to silence me? It was a person who was mentioned in this video today. I'll narrow it down that way for you. They are so dirty. I know. Thanks for all you do. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Do their names start with a L or a J? Possibly. You're being careful, as you should be. Exactly, Ramona. It is scary. It is scary. And it's especially scary whenever it's I started this in the Free Britney movement, to be helpful. And it wasn't something I started as a job. It wasn't something I wanted to make money on or was trying to do for a career. It was literally a thing I was doing on the side as a activism project. That's what it was my side activism, what I was doing in my free time. And the fact that Team Con brought it to my job whenever it frankly didn't really have anything at all to do with my job, was scary. And it's like, they kind of made me have to consider, like, do I choose this activism over my job? Do I choose the job over, because I was making a lot of money. I mean, I'm not going to get into it right now, but all y'all have to do is Google what the big law pay rates are, and you will be able to see. But it was more money than I made more in my first paycheck than I've probably had in my bank account ever. I mean, like, it was a lot of money, but it really put me in a position where I didn't really know if I was going to be able to stay, if I wasn't. And a lot of y'all have already put 2 and 2 together on whether or not I did or not. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't feel bad, and y'all should not feel bad about it. And I will be able to tell more about this in the future. Does it qualify as intimidation? Actually, good question. I mean, I've thought that it was extortion or blackmail, but I'm not an expert on those two topics. And I don't want to be, sued for accusing someone of a crime or whatever. But like, it did definitely feel like I was being put in a position where I had to choose between my job and my activism. Thank you, Nasib. Oh, thank you again. Hiya, hi. Is it a suing person? I think this is someone who sues people. I know y'all are still dying to know what happened. It's a really hard situation. Corruption, all of them. Are you in a better place now? Will it stop you from getting a better job? Yeah, I mean, listen, once you make a name for yourself as a 5-month attorney, I think that reputation does follow you. And I don't care. So I am not the type of person who will choose money or any career over my integrity. Like, if it comes down to like losing my law license, that would be wrong and devastating. And, I have a lot of student debt, so it would be pretty bad. But even if it came down to that, like, I know that I'm doing what's right. I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know history has its eyes on me. And so I just have this sense of knowing that everything is going to work out in the way that it has to work out, because I'm doing the right thing. And that's just the law of the universe. And putting all my money on that bet. I cannot wait for them to be exposed. I know, me too. Oh yes, I would love personal security. Your boss can't sack you for that legally. Yeah, I know. Take your time with that topic. It is so cruel of them. Happy to support your channel and appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much, Chris D. Everything's going to come to light. And that's the thing. Everything's going to come to light. Everything's going to come to light. And I will be telling the story. It will be being told. It's already been a while longer on the story than I anticipated and that I wanted, but I'm doing my best. And I'm really trying. Anyway, okay. Well, that was a little bonus scene here. Thank you to everyone who stayed around for that. I'm sure it'll be all over the internet soon. That's why I can't say I kind of wish it was just like, hey, we're here. Like, we're friends. We're having a but like, who knows who's here and what they're doing and what they're talking about. So, the spies and things. So I really still have to be careful about what I'm saying until I discuss this further with a couple people. But yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm doing things I love to do. I'm making a lot of new friends, and we're all like changing the world together for the better. And that's like, honestly, like, why else do you become a lawyer anyway? Okay, so I will be going. I'm going to check in with Chris Melcher and see if he wants to go live or something today. And then we can ask him some questions about his filing and just do a like rundown or something. I don't know. But I like y'all. Oh, love you. Take care. So inspirational. Oracle, you're so nice. All these people have God complexes. Exactly. Love to all of y'all, and I will see you really soon. Hugs, and all of that. And facts ain't defamation. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you. Last one. Thank you. Yeah, facts ain't defamation or anything else wrong. So talk to y'all later. Okay, bye.